Some conversations can leave people feeling unexpectedly uncertain about themselves. Not necessarily because the topic itself is confusing, but because the direction of the conversation quietly changes over time. A concern may be raised clearly at first, but instead of staying focused on the original issue, the discussion slowly shifts toward the reaction, the tone, or the person bringing it up. Over time, this can create self-doubt. A person may begin questioning their memory, their interpretation, or whether they should have brought the concern up at all. In this video, we're going to look at a communication pattern sometimes called responsibility reversal, why it creates confusion, and how recognizing the pattern can help restore clarity over time. What responsibility reversal looks like. To understand why certain conversations create confusion, it helps to first notice how the pattern itself unfolds. At first, a concern may be raised clearly. Something feels unresolved. A promise may have been broken. A comment may have felt hurtful. A recurring issue may need to be discussed. The goal is often simple: to talk about what happened. But instead of staying focused on the original concern, the direction of the conversation begins to shift. Attention moves toward the reaction, how the concern was brought up, the timing, the tone, the wording. Gradually, the original issue becomes less visible, and the conversation starts to center around the person who raised the concern instead. Over time, this shift can become difficult to notice in the moment because it happens subtly. A person may leave the interaction feeling confused, frustrated, or unexpectedly responsible for the conflict itself. Not necessarily because the original concern was resolved, but because the focus quietly moved somewhere else. Why it creates guilt. When the focus of a conversation quietly shifts, something else begins to happen beneath the surface. Guilt. Not always immediately, sometimes gradually. A person may begin feeling responsible, not only for the conversation itself, but for the discomfort surrounding it. Instead of focusing on the original concern, attention moves toward the reaction, the wording, the tone, the timing. Questions may begin to appear. Could I have said it differently? Did I create unnecessary conflict? Should I have brought it up at all? Over time, these questions can slowly change how a person interprets the interaction. The original concern becomes harder to hold on to, and the emotional focus begins shifting towards self-evaluation instead. This can feel confusing because the concern itself may never have actually been resolved. It simply became harder to see clearly. In many situations, the guilt does not appear because someone did something wrong. Sometimes it develops because the conversation quietly moved away from the original issue and toward the person who raised it. Recognizing this shift can help restore perspective, because feeling responsible for conflict does not always mean you created it. How communication changes. When conversations repeatedly lead to confusion or guilt, something subtle often begins to change over time. Communication itself. At first, a person may continue bringing concerns forward. They may try to explain things more clearly, choose their words more carefully, try different ways of approaching difficult conversations. But over time, hesitation can begin to appear. Simple concerns may start feeling heavier to bring up. One might rehearse conversations in their mind before even having them, wondering, how should I say this? Will this become another argument? Is it even worth bringing up? Gradually, communication may become more cautious, not because the concern disappeared, but because the experience of raising concerns became increasingly uncomfortable. Over time, some people may begin speaking less altogether, not necessarily from lack of care, but from uncertainty about how the conversation will unfold. This shift can feel confusing because it often happens slowly. The person may not immediately notice that their communication has even changed, only later realizing that they became quieter, more hesitant, or more careful than before. Recognizing this shift can bring an important kind of perspective. Sometimes communication changes not because someone stopped caring, but because repeated experiences changed how safe it felt to speak openly. What this pattern can make you doubt. Over time, repeated experiences like this can begin affecting more than just communication. They can begin affecting perspective. A concern that once felt clear may slowly start to feel uncertain. Questions may begin to appear. Was that actually a problem? Did I misunderstand what happened? Am I overreacting? At first, these questions may seem temporary, but when similar experiences happen repeatedly, uncertainty can begin to grow. Instead of feeling clearer after conversations, a person may leave feeling more confused than before. The original concern becomes harder to hold on to, not necessarily because it disappeared, but because it has been repeatedly questioned. Over time, this can make it harder to trust personal interpretation. Even when something feels uncomfortable, there may be hesitation to fully acknowledge it. Not because the feeling itself is unclear, but because repeated conversations gradually created doubt around it. Recognizing this pattern can separate two things. One, the experience itself. Two, the uncertainty that followed it. Those are not always the same. And understanding that distinction can sometimes help restore clarity over time. Why some conversations make you doubt yourself? Let's restore clarity. When conversations repeatedly create confusion, clarity can begin to feel distant, not because it disappeared, but because it has been repeatedly questioned. After enough experiences like this, second guessing can begin to feel automatic. Even simple reactions may start feeling uncertain. But clarity does not always return all at once. Sometimes it begins with a quieter shift, observing what actually happened without immediately adjusting the experience to fit the reaction that followed. A concern was raised. The focus shifted. The original issue became harder to see. Simply noticing that sequence can create perspective. Not necessarily answers right away, but understanding. Over time, recognizing patterns can make confusing conversations easier to interpret. Questions may begin to feel less overwhelming. Perspective may begin to feel steadier. And clarity often returns gradually once experiences are viewed with a little more distance and understanding. Understanding a pattern doesn't solve everything immediately, but it can make confusion less confusing. And sometimes that's where the clarity begins. If you found some value in this type of content, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Behavior Decoded has a calm guide that actually explains confusing behavior patterns, and it's available for free. Click the link in the bio. Until next time.